Welcome to the Spinning Our Gears podcast. As a reminder, the issues, views, and opinions discussed on the podcast are those of the hosts and their guests and do not reflect that of any department, agency, city, municipality, state, or country. All characters and individuals discussed on the podcast should be considered fictional for entertainment value. Blue Falcons, don't go getting it twisted. This show is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. If you aren't cool with that, hit the X and find something else. We are on all major podcast and social media platforms. The best way to get a hold of us is www.spinningourgears.com. Without any further fanfare or ado, here are your hosts, Turk, Swagger, Erika, Kenyon, and this is the Spinning Our Gears podcast. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Spinning Our Gears podcast. I'm Turk. Today I got Erika with me. It's just going to be her and I doing this one. I'm already stuttering, so it's going to be a good episode. We know that. But how you doing, Erika?
Man, I'm doing great. It's been a long day. It's been a busy day, but it's been a productive day.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other pop off shit we like to talk about.
Absolutely. And you said that you got a new therapist now?
I do. So, just if I can spend a little time on that for anybody that listens to this podcast and you're thinking about getting some help. One, please don't be embarrassed or ashamed. That's a very normal human reaction to very abnormal human circumstances and sometimes rather inhumane circumstances, right? But if we price compare and we shop for the best deal we can get on underwear, you should absolutely be shopping for the right therapist that meets your needs. I have a very specific approach. I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I know that. So when I meet with somebody for the first time and, I'll typically ask them toward the end of the session, like, are you comfortable? Do you want to continue working together? And if they say no, I say okay, and I give them resource referrals, right? So they can reach out to others. I know that I'm not everyone's cup of tea because I'm very direct in how I communicate. And that's a holdover from, my past, being in law enforcement, starting out as a jailer. And it's just kind of how I am. So, being able to look at these things and say, hey, I've tried to work through this stuff on my own. It doesn't seem to be working really well. It takes an incredible amount of courage and intestinal fortitude to finally say, I need some help with this. So,
we harp on that so much, like with the EAP. That's just a resource for you to use to get to where you need to be. Chances are the therapist you find through EAP is not going to be the one for you, but they should be able to get you to the one that's going to help you out.
Absolutely. So I have some insight, right? I am also a therapist, and I might have to go let my dog out here in a minute. But the first therapist, so I had a suppressed memory pop up from childhood, and I wasn't expecting it. It kind of showed up a couple of months ago. The good news is today I know what to do about it, right? I called my therapist or called a therapist and said, hey, I need to get some sessions. I met with that therapist one time, and it was very clear that this individual was not a good fit for me. And so I said, because my recovery allows me to do that, I don't think you're going to be a good fit for my needs.
Right.
Now, what that resulted in was a tiny little bit of discomfort on my end. Nobody ever wants to tell someone else. I don't really like your style, or I don't think this is going to work for me. But it's important because what I have now is a therapist that is very good, that is meeting all of my needs. And I actually look forward to the sessions, even though we're discussing some pretty heavy shit.
Yeah.
So price compare, please shop, not just price, but also look at what are the therapist qualifications? What is their background? If you've got and I'm not saying that people can't be good therapists right out of college, right out of, high school and then go straight to college. I've worked with some therapists that are very good at what they do and don't have our background. But for some of us, including me in the very beginning, and we've talked about it before on this podcast, for some of us, we definitely need to feel safe with the person that we're talking to. And sometimes with us, that safety comes from feeling like the therapist or the mental health provider understands your language, understands the unique circumstances that tend to come with this job, including childhood trauma. Let's be honest, a lot of us have a history of chaos, right? Family violence, chaos, drugs, alcohol, mom, dad fighting, early divorce, all these different things that we struggle with. Life happens. So it is more okay to get help, and make sure that you're getting the help that fits your needs, and make sure that if you're not comfortable with your therapist after a couple of sessions, let the therapist know and find a different one, and keep going until you find one you are comfortable with.
Do you see that as an evolving thing? Like maybe you have got client one that you've worked with for 6 months or a year and everything's been going great, and then after a year things change and then they need to find someone else, or is that, how does that work for you?
Well, I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm pretty good at developing trusting relationships with my clients, which is a feat in and of itself because a lot of us have trust issues.
Yeah.
But one look inside my session room and you're among friends. If you walk into my session room, I have badges, patches, and American flag. It's very clear that I've got a background as a member of the warrior class. And so what I see more often than not is actually in the first session, they come in super guarded, super wound up. And within a couple of minutes of looking around and talking to me and going, oh, she doesn't talk like the other therapists. They relax, I watch their shoulders droop, and I know that we can proceed forward.
You mentioned the American flag. Do we even want to cover what happened last night? She's shaking her head no.
Yes, no?
So this will probably be airing August 1. However, today it's June 28th.
Yeah.
And the first presidential debate happened last night. And what a shit show that was. My goodness.
Yeah. You know how many people are coming out that we're going to vote for Biden? And based on his border policies and some of the things that he's done as far as the United States and other countries, and then he came across as literally what a lot of us conservative voters have been saying all along. He doesn't appear mentally fit to hold that office. That's a presidency. We can't have people. I get it. He's older. He's got cognitive decline. I hope that he's able to get some help with memory care. But at the end of the day, I need a president in the White House who can form complete sentences.
Yeah.
I need them to be able to stay on topic, because if they're making an ass out of themselves publicly through, I don't know, publicly televised debates, you should be able to hold your own. Because if you can't hold your own in a debate, how in the hell are you going to hold your own dealing with other world power leaders?
Right.
You can't do that. You can't even keep track of what you're talking about. So
I think, especially from a lot of the responses that I've seen so far, is that people are starting to realize how much that the government has been trying to divide us as a people over the last 4, 8, 12 years. And I think they're getting tired of it. I think it's becoming kind of coming to a head. And there's going to be a lot of questions that need answered by the end of the day.
And if we're perfectly honest, there is a certain population, I think I can probably just say certain population, we're all going to understand what I'm talking about. There is a certain population that will probably never see the truth. They'll never accept it. They'll never acknowledge it. They are so married at this point to Biden's bullshit rhetoric that they don't know how to disentangle themselves. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that are going to vote for Biden because they think he's going to be the best president. But my belief is the debate last night hurt him even more
Mm-hmm.
than he was already hurting prior to the debate.
I think that it hurt both sides. I really do. I think that neither side looked good, and I think people are starting to realize, like, hey, we need someone who's not looking to divide us and someone who's looking for the betterment of the country, whether that's Republican, Democrat, fucking third party, whatever it is.
And there's a lot of people, including people in my generation, that are saying the last time we had a president like that was Reagan.
Yeah.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
Every president, including ones that I voted for, have been more divisive than they were unifying.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point in our nation's history where we really need to be supporting one another and not dividing over religion and politics. And we got enough shit to deal with. Go out and vote. Vote for the person that you think is best for the job. Because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Well, and hey, you. That's right. You looking at me, looking back at you through the little lens there. Or if you're not watching the podcast, if you're listening at home, are you looking for a cool t-shirt? Maybe a t-shirt to rep your favorite podcast, the Spinning Our Gears podcast, the one that I'm wearing right now. Do you want a cool t-shirt like that? Or maybe a cool vinyl decal to put in your car or your water bottle or wherever you want to stick it. That sounded wrong. Wherever you want to put that sticker. Do you want something cool like that? Then go to www.spinningourgears.com and click the merch link, the Spinning Our Gears gear link. That's where you find an awesome t-shirt just like this, as well as some vinyl decals and all sorts of cool stuff. You can also find the book, Imposters on the Throne, Warriors in the Shadows. You can find that at www.spinningourgears.com as well. Go, click that link, get some cool gear. You can listen to the podcast while you're doing it. Go get yourself some cool merch. All right. Back to the show. Well, and you hit it right on the head right there, because I think the biggest problem that we've faced over the past 20 years is not so much the candidates, but the fact that it went from a popular vote to a popularity vote. And that's what they care more about, is their popularity status than their policies or what they're trying to, enact.
Totally agree with you. And I think that's why this country is as upside down as it is. And it's why I am very comfortable, and I've used the image several times of our American flag being upside down. It pains me to look at that. But sometimes the truth is painful.
Yeah.
And this country has been in distress for a long time.
Yeah, very much so.
It would be nice to get somebody in that could actually work on unifying everybody and bringing us together. The last time, and it was relatively short-lived, was 9/11.
Yeah.
We all came together as a country. We're all watching our televisions. We were glued to those televisions, glued to our phones, trying to find out what's going on. How can we help? And we lost it. I mean, and historically, that's what happens, right? After Pearl Harbor, everybody kind of pulled together in the United States, was supporting one another. So 9/11 was no different. We have this incredible moment in time. So that tells us that we have the ability to do this.
Yeah.
We all came together. It didn't matter what your religion, your country, your race, where you were. None of it mattered. We were all United States citizens, and we all came together.
Well,
but by 2012, 2013, we have such short memory.
Yes.
It was gone.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in that boat again of, we need to remember who the fuck we are.
Well, and even from a smaller perspective, from the law enforcement side of things, like, during that time frame, things were really good for law enforcement because they didn't care, just go get the bad guys. They understood we were trying to achieve a goal, and we were trying to complete a job. So,
yeah, and that has definitely changed.
Yeah, it has.
I say it all the time. I mean, I work with clients that are retired, that were fired, that are still active duty, and we all kind of say the same thing,
When was your last year?
My last what?
When was your last year?
You're going to make me age myself.
No.
Damn you. No, I practice a program of rigorous honesty today. So I'm getting ready to be 54. It's been almost 20 years.
Okay. So what was the climate like for you in regards to all this craziness, work in the street and politics and things like that?
So, I'm not a gender bender. I'm not oh my gender. Never. I'm that officer of the year in the county that I was in because I didn't back down from fights. I had no problems. You know, if I had to get in the mix, I got in the mix. But um, the culture was people were beginning to kind of talk about this idea of mental health and oh my god, maybe first responders can actually get PTSD. Maybe you don't have to wear BDUs to get PTSD, which is crazy because you don't. So, but when I went and told the chief that I was struggling, I knew when I walked out the door that day that my career was over. I absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, based on his reaction to me saying I'm drinking too much and I need help, I knew my career was done. Now, that is beginning or continues to change. I still work with people that have the same horror stories that I do, but I'm also beginning to see clients that are still active, that are there because their department sent them for treatment or sent them for therapy. And as long as they successfully complete their program or successfully complete therapy or continue to remain actively involved in therapy, they get to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
And so that is happening more and more, but it's not happening more enough
Yeah.
yet. So you asked me about the environment. I think that one line in my story, when it was published, it said I had become a pariah in my department, but no one could hate me more than I did. I had become a pariah in my department. So there were a lot of levels of pain to that, right? I just spent 15 years of my life working for this place, to the detriment of my own mental health and family, including my children. And this is the first time I'm saying I'm struggling with something and you offered no help.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long, like literally the next day, I knew that people were talking about it. So I can't definitively say how that information got out, but originally I only shared it with one person, and he was my chief. Fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
So not only did I lose my career, my self-respect, and my mental health, I lost my identity. But I think the thing that hurt me the most is I felt like I had lost my family again. I didn't come from good family. I come from mental illness and addiction are on both sides of my family. It's rampant on the maternal and paternal side. And I was determined not to become that, but then I became that. And so when I went to the chief, there was a part of me that was hoping like I can get some help and I can stay in my job because I loved my job.
Yeah.
But that's not the response that I got. And of course, I actually a couple of weeks ago was talking to you know well, when you're retired it's weird because you may not talk to somebody for 15 years, you may not have seen him in 20, but I had one person that I used to work with reached out to me on Facebook, sent me a Facebook friend request, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't thought about the person in years. So I accepted the request. And he sent me a very long message, and it was a beautiful message. And there was one part in it where he said, I knew the department was sick if I didn't know it before by how they treated you when you left. He said, Erika, they were laughing, they were making fun of you. Now, if I would have been told that 11 years ago, it would have devastated me because, again, this was supposed to be my family.
Right.
The thin blue line. This is one of the things that really attracted me into this profession, only to find out it's not always true.
Yeah.
It's not always there. Sometimes the thin blue line is a hell of a lot thinner than it should be. So, if I'd have read that 11 years ago, it would have destroyed me. I've done so much work on it at this point that I was like, yeah, I know. I kind of figured that's what was happening. And that was it. Also, 11 years ago, I'd have been reaching out to people. Hey, fucker, I heard you were laughing at my ass.
Yeah.
But I'm in recovery now, and they're not worth my time. So when he said it, I was just like, yeah, I know. I knew they were doing that. But it's interesting how my departure from that police department after 15 years caused, and he wasn't the only one. I had multiple people reach out to me like, I heard what they did to you, Eric. It was wrong. I heard what they did to you. That's fucked up. They were laughing like I couldn't believe how sick the department was. So even my departure, even though it was time, but I was stubborn. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to let go of the career. So I did some things that gave me no other option. Um, but it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've been in therapy, I have a solid identity today. I don't have to identify myself as a police officer to feel comfortable in my own skin. I know absolutely who I am. I have purpose in my life. And oddly enough, this I want to make sure we get in. You know, we talk about the thin blue line, family. We lose that when we leave. There were some people that stayed by me. And those people are still very good friends of mine today. We've had some phenomenal conversations about things that used to screw us up while we were both working and on the streets, and how, you know, we either overcome them, or I've had a couple of friends that are still kind of struggling with what happened in that city. So it's a process, right? The environment was not healthy. The good old boy system was still alive and well. I knew that I was not one of the chief's favorites. I've told some stories about shit that I said because I don't have a filter, that pissed him off. I had 4 different city policies come out, the direct results of my own decisions. And I made my peace with it. Now I get to help my brothers and sisters either recover from that career or get them well enough and healthy, mentally healthy, so that they can continue to work in whatever field they're in. So, yeah, it's changing, but it's not changing quick enough.
Okay, so we're we're gonna turn the wheels here a little bit, because there's a couple different things that I want to talk about just based on your dialogue there. Originally, this episode was going to be expectations versus reality in law enforcement, and it was going to be the follow up to Kenyon and my episode about what we wish our spouses knew. We thought it was kind of pair well together. I
Yes.
think one of those expectations versus reality you hit right on the head when you talked about how thin the thin blue line is. And I kind of feel like there's enough to go on just based on that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what this episode is going to be now, is talking about how thin that thin blue line is. Because although there are still some of us that really support it, and we're, you know, the ones that are really holding it together, it has gotten so much more thin than people realize. And as Dr. Dave talks about on The Shield Within, it's because of us. We're fucking our own. We're screwing our own. And every time we do that, we're compromising the integrity of that thin blue line.
I've said it for years. We are killing each other from the inside out, not from the outside in. Our biggest worry, it's not liberals.
No.
It's pink hat wearing people. It's not, it's that. It's that. So here's the thing. Because I don't want people listening to this podcast to be like, well, law enforcement sucks. There's really not a thin blue line. So I want to clarify something. I lost my blue line family, the vast majority of them. But here's the cool thing. There is another thin line family out there that is comprised of people like me and people like you and people that have gone through the thick and are now openly talking about it, so that other people can go, okay, you know what? I can do this. If she did it, if he did it, I can do it too. So I have a family now. And when I tell you family, some of these people I've never met in person, and you are one of them. But you'll notice that I refer to people as brother, as sister. There's a whole nother thin line, blue line, and actually it's every color fucking line. Every first responder that has ever served, that struggled, that worked really hard to get themselves back on track and are now well and are using their experiences to help other brothers and sisters, that's family.
Yeah.
People in Canada that are doing the same exact thing that I'm doing. They were in law enforcement in Canada. They then went back to school, and now they are helping other Canadian first responders. And the same thing here in the United States. So if you're struggling with not having that thin blue line family, please know that there's a whole nother thin blue, red, yellow, white, green line out there, and we are a strong community with a strong voice, and we are connecting with each other exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother area of people, of warriors that have had their asses kicked by trauma in the job and childhood shit. They're now passing on what they've learned. Find that tribe. Find your tribe.
Absolutely.
My tribe is a bunch of weirdos, and they know it. We all know it. I'm a weirdo too. We're nerds. We nerd nation. We like, we don't feel like we have to be badasses anymore. We don't have to look like we're badasses, and so we're embracing our inner nerd. It's great, right? We don't
Nothing
have to.
wrong with it.
We don't have to maintain that certain image anymore. So that family has become stronger than my thin blue line family ever was.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed that some of the members of that family, that tribe, are all people that I've worked with in the past.
So, you've talked about your story and how your career ended. I think we've told the story several times about our lieutenant who was kind of ceremoniously walked out the door because he wanted mental health help. The one story that I want to talk about is in reference to the patches that I have behind me. For those of you not watching who don't have that capability, I've got kind of a tarp-looking thing with a bunch of different patches on there, and that was not through trading whatsoever. As the story goes, at Icarus, we had a chief of police come in, and after about a month of being there, we got an email that said, hey, there's a bunch of stuff on the back table and roll call. If you guys want it, have at it. Otherwise, I'm going to throw it away. And I saw this box, and it's got, it was a probably 8 by 11 by 8 box full of patches.
Wow.
And I thought, that's kind of cool. We were thinking about doing my oldest son's room in patches at the time. So I grabbed it, and I threw it in my locker, and it sat there until my last day at Icarus. And I'm clearing out my locker, and I find this box. And at first, I was going to put it back in the roll call. And I thought, no, let's figure something out. I brought it home. After about 6 months of being at my new job, I pulled it back out, and I started looking through it. And what really pissed me off was the fact that I started pulling out some of these patches that were patches that people probably bled for, patches that people definitely sweated for and sacrificed for. These were patches that were probably given to this chief as a thank you for something he did for the department.
And he was just going to dump them.
Yeah. So there was meaning behind these patches. And like I said, it was a big box of these patches, right? It wasn't like he went out and bought them or just found them somewhere. Someone took the time to say, hey, brother, I appreciate you. Here is this patch that I worked my ass off for, that he was just going to throw away if no one took. Yeah. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at right now with that thin blue line. Like, hey, I'll trade patches with you or I'll trade coins with you, but it's a novelty thing. No one takes the time to realize what those mean, what sacrifices went into getting those. The sacrifice of being away from your family every day is part of that sacrifice. So I felt the need to take some of the ones that I kind of felt were cooler and put them, on the wall back here. And then I kind of have a plan for the rest of them where eventually I'm going to get those back to the agencies that they came from, because I think that they need to have those back in their hands. Hey, y'all, I've been thinking about this since we recorded this episode, me and Erika, and I want to accomplish a goal here by getting a lot of these patches back to the departments that they deserve to be at. One of the ways that I want to do that, though, is also to kind of include you guys. So if you're willing to, the idea that I kind of brainstormed, if you go to the website, spinningourgears.com, we have a link for a donate button. It takes us to our Venmo. I'm trying to keep costs down. For every $1 that you donate through that link, tag it with the patch club or patch trade or whatever you want to, just indicate patch. I will send you a couple patches, and then I'll get a couple patches sent to the organization, the department that they deserve to go back to. I think that should help cover postage and envelopes and letters and things like that. Probably will come out even. If there's anything left over, we'll give it to a good cause. It will not go in our pockets. But anyway, spinningourgears.com, click that donate button to our Venmo, indicate you want a patch or two, we'll get it to you, and we'll get that set up. All right, thanks, guys. Back to the show. Back in their hands. But that's my plan.
Yeah. Well, so again, if you walk into my session room, I've got 2 boards, and they're rail boards, so they're up toward the top, and it's patches.
Yeah.
And it's not patches that I've solicited. It's patches and badges. I've actually had some people pass on their badge from law enforcement, from firefighting, because they felt like they were finally in a place where they could move on from the profession. Some of those patches, everything that's on those boards was given to me as a way of saying thank you.
Yeah.
So they come in, and of course, hey, well, I don't see my patch up there. Well, if you would like to send one to me, I will absolutely place it on the board in a place of honor. But those boards to me represent healing. Every one of those patches, every one of those badges represents a warrior. Military, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, first responder communities represent the possibility of healing. So I love it when somebody comes into my session room for the first time and they're like, what are all your patches and badges for? I mean, did you work? I'm going, did you work in all those places? And I'm like, oh. I said, these are pouches that people gave to me that felt like they got what they needed out of therapy and were living their best life. And this was their way of saying thank you. And so what I usually get is, I'm going to get a patch to you. And I go, when you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll put it up there.
Yeah.
So I've even had clients walk in and go, that's my department. And I go, what does that patch tell you, knowing why I keep patches? Somebody else has been here, you've worked with them, and they got better. Maybe I can get better too. I had no idea, but maybe I can get better too. And I went,
and for those out there not in law enforcement, I can't harp it enough. It's not a $2 patch that someone is giving. It is the connection and the communication and whatever form of bond or relationship it was between those two people to say, here's my patch for my agency that I wore on my shoulder, and that trading back and forth, getting their patch back to you. So for the head of the department, for the head of the agency, the one who's supposed to be setting an example and letting us know that he's got our backs and he's there for us and we're a cohesive family, right? We're that thin blue line family, to then say, if no one wants them, they're going to go in the dumpster next Thursday, is a huge slap into the face to every single person who gave him that patch. And that explains a lot about where we were at.
Well, and I mean, if you put it in context, there's a video floating around. Actually, I ran across it. I want to say it was last week. It might have been earlier this week, but I don't even remember. I think it was out of New Jersey. They burned that guy's badge.
Yeah, I saw that.
In the police academy, burned it down because he had dishonored that badge.
Yeah.
That's how strongly we're connected to these symbols, right?
Mm-hmm.
No officer wanted to wear that badge because it was associated with a dirty cop.
How do you feel about it being made as public as it was, and making the point to turn to social media to say we burned this badge and we melted it down?
I think it depends on the context. So, for instance, my situation, I did most of my tarnishing outside of the badge. It was after I had left. That's where most of the tarnishing took place. But I don't believe that my actions up to that point were worthy of my badge being burned. And in fact, it wasn't. I'm sure badge number 1615 is still alive and well in the city of Harker Heights. But I've also worked with and come across stories of individuals that just committed egregious acts behind that badge. And yeah, I do. Actually, I think that's a hell of a message to send in a police academy. If you disrespect the badge, we erase you from our existence. We're going to burn this badge so nobody else has to carry around this thing that is associated with this tarnished image. Because no one hates a bad cop more than a good one.
Right.
In context, I think if it was done to punish the guy, I think that's wrong. I don't agree with that. But I think being used with him having tarnished the badge the way that he did, I think that badge being used as an example, like this is what's going to happen if you repeat the same things this guy did, thinking you're going to get away with it. This is what's going to happen. And so I think it was a very powerful thing to do. Now, if an officer had come to a chief like I did and said, hey, I'm drinking too much, and the chief decided to fire me and burn my badge down, I don't know that I would be on board with that. Because I literally asking for help.
I guess what I'm getting at is I'm perfectly fine with him doing that in front of the academy and sending that message to the academy and the department, but it's that turning the camera on and that look at me and look what I'm doing that I question. And the video is pretty short, so there's not a lot of context there. And I think a lot of it kind of goes back to, my religious side, where like the giving for people is meant to make things better, not to receive that reward that comes later on in life or afterlife. And so I kind of wonder, him doing that with the camera on and posting it to social media, was that really worth it? Was it, beneficial to the department?
I'm tracking. And I don't guess we would know that answer without actually talking to the probies or the rooks that are in the academy. Here's what I like about this part of our conversation. We have a different point of view on this, but we're expressing it. We're open to hearing what the other person has to say, and we're engaging in respectful, adult, mature conversation about it.
Yeah.
We need more of that in this profession.
Mm-hmm.
We need more of it. We need, if you're a chief and you have an officer that disagrees with your policies or whatever, instead of getting butthurt about it, why don't you take the time to sit down with that officer and ask, right? Why is your ego so fragile that you can't sit down and say, hey, I understand that you have an issue with this new policy. I'd love to hear your thoughts. That should be what a chief of police is doing, or
Yeah.
a captain or a lieutenant, and then relaying that information up the chain of command.
Well, okay, so look at Dallas PD. I don't know if you saw that recently. I believe it was the chief posting about the full sleeve tattoos and showing tattoos.
That he was so proud of himself that he was going to allow him to start doing it.
Yeah, and how it had been a 3.5 year battle.
Comfortable with it or don't get used to it or something like that.
Yeah, yep. Or he, at least for today only, or something like that. He was showing it. We're always behind the eight ball, right? We're always trying to play catch up, and I don't know what it is. Like the tattoo and beard policy is like a 5-6 year ago thing.
Yeah, it's archaic.
Yeah.
I can understand a firefighter not being able to wear a beard because it affects his ability to get a good seal.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Well, SWAT team maybe with their gas masks.
Yeah. So I think as tattoos have become more socially acceptable, I think it's more acceptable now in departments. I'm not sleeved, but I have huge ass tattoos on both arms and other places that are visible to people on a regular basis. Does that make me less of a professional? Not according to my stats.
No, not at all. It just resonated because you talked about having that open door and that communicating like adults. And I want to say his post said something like people had been asking for 3.5 to 5 years to have this done. And it took that long for him to break down.
So can I just give you my opinion on that?
Yeah.
That's a power trip.
Yeah. I think you're right.
That's ego driven. That's ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. I did watch it, and even though I haven't been in a really long time, I found myself getting a little frustrated and angry. I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
If you have an officer that knows their shit, they're solid, they show up to work on time, they do what they're supposed to do, they go home at the end of every shift. If they want to grow a beard, let them grow a damn beard. They want to grow a mustache, let them grow a damn mustache. I mean, I get it if you start looking like, I don't know, Jack Black and unkempt and shit.
Right.
I love Jack Black, by the way. But he can get a little hairy looking, right? Because he doesn't always trim his stuff up very neatly. So I think as long as it's trimmed, tattoos are not divisive in any way. We don't have Nazi swastikas or some insane, crazy shit on our arms.
Right.
Hate speech of any kind. I think it's perfectly appropriate. I think more departments are catching on, but then you have chiefs of police that are still kind of living in the land of, the dinosaurs.
Well, that and just not wanting to... if I agree with what they want, it's giving up some sort of my power, I think is what they're really afraid of.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it a lot, that whole not knowing how to do things the right way, so you try to kind of push down the other people so that you don't look like an idiot.
Yeah. I mean, so as a female, when I first started in law enforcement, I didn't have long hair, but it's probably shoulder length, right? And there was a female lieutenant. We were not getting along at this point because, we were two women in law enforcement. We all know how that goes down.
Y'all got to do something about that.
Well, we did. Eventually we became friends, and then she turned on me. But anyway, we weren't friends back when all of this was going on, and I don't even know where I was going with that. I was telling you about this particular female lieutenant. What the fuck was I talking about?
How you had shoulder length hair, not long hair.
Oh, yeah. So she came up to me one day, and this was in briefing. I don't remember. I think it was right after briefing, but she came up behind me and she grabbed my hair like that. She pulled and she goes, "You need to get that fucking haircut." And I'm like, well, fuck. Now, I was super new in the profession at the time. And so I went to my hairstylist and I said, "Cut it." He goes, "How short?" I said, "Short." He goes, "How short?" "Like a man." And I did. I cut my hair so damn short I couldn't even pull it back anymore. It was a man's haircut. And as the hair was being clipped, and I'm not a crier, but I was getting misty. I'm like, holy shit. I don't like
It's
this.
part of you.
It's part of me. I'm going to tell you right now that after that, I never cut my hair that short again. I had kind of finally reached a point, law enforcement, like, I don't really give a fuck if you like my hair or not. If it's not in the policies, it ain't going nowhere. So I wrapped it. Always called it my dookie ball. You know, you take it and you twist your hair and you wrap it around and you stick pins in it. It took about 2 minutes and then I was out the door. Um, so she quit giving me shit over it. But she had a legitimate reason, right? Somebody could grab my hair and pull. In fact, it happened once in a fight in a bar. And to this day, I don't know who did it. It was a bar patron. It wasn't even the person I was trying to arrest. But it taught me a valuable lesson, which is get your fucking hair up. It doesn't need to be another weapon that you're offering up to bad guys. But again, things are changing. I see back when I first started, it was almost frowned upon. It was frowned upon if you looked feminine. I carried lipstick in my uniform shirt almost the entire time I was in. I wanted to look feminine. I didn't need to look like a man with a bare face. If I wanted to put lipstick on, I could do that, right? But it kind of took those experiences to get me to that point.
Yeah.
And I think things are a lot more open now, but I think we still have some work to do in that area. We have a lot of work to do in a lot of areas,
We do.
actually.
We do. But so sticking with the thinness of the thin blue line, why is it that women are so like I just talked about how we seem to fuck one another. Why is it women want to fuck one another so badly in
So
this career
think
field?
so think about it. Now, some of this actually goes back to gender role and genetics. Females are geared, and there's probably going to be people listening to this podcast who are like, "Oh no, that's bullshit. I don't really care." Women are designed to procreate. Men are designed to procreate, right? So even though we're both designed to procreate, we approach it from different angles, literally and figuratively. So if you've ever watched two women meet each other for the first time, we do this and we don't even know it. I didn't realize I was doing it until somebody pointed it out, and I was like, oh my God, I do it too. Women meet each other. It's never men meet each other and they'll look at each other in the eye. They extend that handshake, shake that hand good and firm. You know, if you don't like the person, you might show them that you control them by putting your hand on their wrist while they're shaking yours. But women don't do that. Women start out looking at one another's eyes and then they go down and go all the way down and come back up. So we don't even realize we're doing it. But when we meet another woman, that's competition. It's competition for procreation. It's a genetic proclivity. So
What's going on, everybody? Sorry to take a break from the show, but I was wondering, are you looking for some coffee to start off your day right? Maybe some protein to mix into that coffee or after your pre-workout? Are you looking for an awesome radio station to listen to when you're not listening to this podcast? Then I've got some places for you to check out. The first being RisenWarriorCoffee.com. You know them, you love them just like we do. They've been with us since the beginning. They've got all sorts of amazing flavors and some merch of their own to check out. www.RisenWarriorCoffee.com. Use the code Turk and Swagger at checkout for 10% off your first order. Then go to Millicor.com. If you go through spinningourgears.com first, you can click our merch website, our sponsor website. That'll get you to Millicor. You'll have a discount code from us as well there. And then, when you're done listening to this episode, go to the Thin Line Rock Station. That's right, that flag back there. Go to the Thin Line Rock Station. They've got all sorts of good music all week long. You can listen to me on Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 Central. It'll be a good time. All right, back to the show.
and I had, shit, I did it again. She and I had a lot more common ground than we were willing to admit in the beginning. And so once we started being honest about our common needs, wants, concerns, even similarities in our personalities, we realized that we were better as friends than we were foes. And so we were able, we were friends for probably, I don't want to say the first year or two, so probably about 13 years out of that career, we were friends. Yeah.
I'm glad that we took this turn, honestly, because I think we've talked about some stuff that really needed to be covered. We need to be honest. We need to start having legitimate adult conversations with one another where we don't get heated. It's just a back and forth. We've got a long way to come. We are behind the 8 ball in everything in this career field. It's kind of a way of life, but we need to be more proactive about fixing things between substance abuse, mental health, getting along with one another, stop making things like high school, and just re-solidifying that thin blue line and making it what it once was, because this is a brotherhood and a sisterhood. We have to protect one another on the job. We should be doing it off the job as well.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
On that note, I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to listen to Erika and I ramble on for a little bit and talk about some of the most important things in this career field. As always, these episodes are brought to you by Risen Warrior Coffee, Millicor, and the Thin Line Rock Station. I have nothing else to say, Erika, unless you do.
I do not. I hope everybody that does listen to this podcast is well and happy. And if you're struggling with feeling well or happy, please take the time to consider getting some help. There are people like myself, like Turk, that have been through the shit. We've embraced the suck. We've survived it, and now we have pretty good ideas to help other people find their way out of that abyss. So keep talking about it. Ask for help. There are people out there that, like myself, that truly do understand the shit. Don't give up.
Absolutely.
Don't give up.
Absolutely. SpinningOurGears.com, the contact us link goes directly to my phone, just like a lot of other email out there. If you're struggling, reach out to me, and I will make sure that we get you some sort of service or get you in contact with someone that you need to talk to.
Yes.
Otherwise, stay safe, and we'll get through this together.
Bye, everyone.